camera that you're currently seeing me record this through is the Sony a6000, and I am using the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens, and it is set to f1.4. Now the goal of this video is to show streamers a real world use case scenario of the f1.4 16mm lens versus the original kit lens that is the 16mm to 50mm. This body and lens is one of the most popular combos that a lot of streamers go to when they want to leave their webcam, and I want to make sure that you know whether or not it's worth the upgrade, because $500 for this lens is a lot. The first spec that you want to pay attention to between these two lenses is the focal length, which is measured in millimeters. Both lenses say 16mm on it. However, the Sigma lens is a prime lens, meaning it does not zoom in. What you see right now is what you get. It will not zoom in or out, whereas kit lens that comes with the a6000 is a 16 to 50mm and has a zoom ring that you can rotate right here. If you want to look at that, here you go. You can physically rotate this and it will zoom in and out. Now, if you want to physically grab your lens and zoom in for comedic effect, the Sigma can't do that. You'll have to do that digitally inside of OBS, which will cause you to lose some quality. The second spec that we're going to pay attention to is the f-stop or the aperture. That is the physical opening diaphragm inside of the lens that changes. Now, as that number gets lower, the diaphragm itself in the lens gets larger, and that affects two things: the blurriness of your background and the low light performance, meaning in darker environments, there will be less noise as the number gets smaller. The Sigma 16mm can go all the way down to f1.4, which means it's going to get fantastic low light performance, whereas the kit lens can go down to f3.5, and you're currently seeing me at f1.4 on this lens. I'm going to swap over to this lens and I'm going to keep the ISO and the shutter speed the same, but this lens will be at f3.5. Now, obviously, the first thing that you're going to notice is how much darker this is. The ISO has not changed on the camera. It's still at 125, and the shutter speed is still at 1/60th of a second. This is simply the difference between f3.5 and f1.4. Now, a common misconception about this lens is that because it can't get down to f1.4, is that it can't get as bright as that lens, which is not the case at all. All you need to do is raise the ISO on the body to compensate for the smaller aperture. So now, as you can tell, the lens is just as bright as it was before, but the 16mm is right here. I have raised the ISO on the body of this camera up to ISO 800. I'm still at 1/60th of a second and f3.5. And for anyone that did notice that the focal length did change a little bit, that's simply because this lens is physically deeper. The body itself on my camera did not move, so technically where the image is being seen on the body right now is farther back. If I were to move this farther forward to be at the same position that this lens was, everything would look the same in terms of what's in frame. So now that we've compensated for the low light because of the smaller aperture, the first thing that you're going to notice is that the background isn't nearly as blurry, and that's what I was trying to demonstrate. The difference was that f1.4 has a substantially shallower depth of field or a blurred background, and will get better low light. And you can't really see it here, but I'm sure YouTube compression will show it. There's a little bit more noise in the shadowy areas. It's just a little bit grainier. It's not as clear. And also the Sigma lens tends to be just a skosh sharper than the kit lens, but honestly, you can add a sharpening filter in OBS and no one's going to notice. One of the most important things that I want you to take away from this is that the majority of viewers are not going to be able to tell the difference. Right now, the only reason you're seeing such a big difference in this is because I'm specifically pointing it out. When I went live, I didn't even tell my viewers that I got a new lens. I could see the more blurred background, but no one in my chat could except for one viewer, and that's because he is a gearhead just like me. Personally, for $500, I'm not sure it's worth jumping into this lens, but something that's also important to note is that the closer that you are to the lens, the more the blurred the background is going to become. For example, you saw me stick my hand in there before, and you can still see it gets a very nice blurred background, and when I move my hand away, it gets back in focus. And if I get closer, it is going to keep me in focus because of autofocus, and it gets more blurred in the background, but you lose less of my body. So that's something to keep into consideration, because right now my lens is about 32, 34-ish inches away, and I think that's like 86 centimeters ish for all the metric folks. It is far away. I literally cannot physically reach my lens, and so that's something to take into consideration as well. My desk is very deep because it's a custom built desk. And this lens plays nicely to that. I specifically wanted to have my CRT on as well as my OLED on behind me because I wanted you to be able to see the difference between the two lenses. I'm going to swap back over now to the 16mm so you can get another comparison. Now I'm back down to ISO 125 and f-stop 1.4, and you can see that obviously that the OLED is definitely way more out of focus and my roommate's setup is definitely more out of focus. You can't even read the Donkey Kong barrel. And if you are going for this, and this is really, really important to you, great. I personally don't think it is. I actually ended up filing a return for this lens, and I thought, before I send it back, I should make a video on this to potentially save someone else some money if they feel the same way, because as nice as this blurry background is, it's not worth $500, and I can probably find this used on Facebook Marketplace for like $250. I've already seen 1 or 2 in my area go for that, and if I can find it for that price, I'd be much more happy. But for $500, that's tough to swallow. Again, don't forget, if you're sitting closer to your lens than I am, I literally physically cannot reach these lenses, you're going to get a much more blurry background, and you're just going to get less noise with the Sigma, so you can see that it's not as like grainy and noisy in the background. But you can also adjust that with just having better lighting in your room. Personally, in my opinion, gear does not make a content creator grow. People come for the personality, they come for the entertainment and the knowledge, not how good something looks. Within reason. Within reason, okay? This lens is not going to make me grow as a YouTuber. I know that as a fact. I wanted to see how it performed. It looks great, but right now, I can't justify the purchase for it. If you felt I left something out and you had more questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. I would appreciate you liking the video. It does help support me and potentially push it to other people who may be considering this upgrade as well. And subscribe if you want to see more tech videos. If you have any questions, again, drop a comment down below or hop in the Discord. We have a tech talk channel where you have multiple people in there talking to be able to help you out. If you want to catch me live over on Twitch, link for that in the description as well as everything else. If you want to check out my gaming channel where I do Aperture content, link down there as well. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.